Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I'm going to ask the three senior vice presidents to join us here so that we can not
Sure.
have bobbing heads if there are questions. And we're in the good hands of Jamel to drive the presentation. Where is Dr. Cooper? Okay, we'll have her join us. I need to, we sent, a week ago, we posted everything, we sent you a copy of the budget. We've done budget every month since the planning meeting back in December. But, there comes a point where I have to maintain your confidence. When we opened the summer semester yesterday, we were down 3% again over last year. So to show up this morning and tell you something magical is going to change just with the start of the new fiscal year, I don't think I can. I can't tell you that. We're working as hard as we can to do the 3% strategy, but I don't want to build that in if it's not going to happen. I think we ought to. We can always add money to the budget. We can always figure out how to get to the next level, but I'd rather keep going forward rather than going back. So yesterday, at my direction, Doug and Jamel revised the presentation. What we did, the presentation we'd like to, the priorities haven't changed, the numbers are going to change a little bit, but what you will see then is the baccalaureate programs continue to grow. They grew 5%, and they have been ever upwards. So we kept the 3% growth for the bachelor's programs, and we'll project that revenue into the budget. We zeroed the growth for the lower division, and indeed, we're going to hold a reserve in case that goes down again. So not only are we not going to spend the zero amount, we're going to reserve some of that just in case. We brought in all the money from the legislative piece. The work that we've done, and we just showed some of the student success. We had a great presentation last month on our college experience. I still would like to and make the strong case for the $1 per credit hour for the learning access fee that's devoted 100% to the continued expansion of our student success initiatives. Just by the numbers, we had our last weekly meeting last week, 100,000 visits this semester to the learning centers by our students, 250,000 visits over the year. We have 14,000 students now who are on learning plans. 20,000 is within our reach. We have a strategy to do that. So I want to say that the scaling up of these wonderful efforts needs to continue in my estimation. That's the highest priority that I'm presenting to you. The cost of doing that is $1 per credit hour in the learning access fee. Okay, so it's pledged. I don't want to be too cute here. It's not a tuition increase, but the students pay $1 extra for that, and we can continue to grow those learning centers. The issue that we had taken some time with you on was compensation. Unfortunately, what I'd like to do is leave that unresolved because, quite frankly, without the tuition growth, I don't think we can afford a compensation increase. I'd like not to say no permanently because we may find that our efforts start to catch on. You saw our change in the marketing, the intake process. We're working that as hard as we know how. The campuses are holding literally every night welcoming sessions on campus. But we ought to grow into it. If it works, we'll all celebrate. But I can't recommend spending money that we don't have. So Jamel, if you would move us forward, we'll review with you the budget that we presented to you last month with some minor changes and take your input. We still have a month to go, but this is our latest and best recommendation to you.
Good morning. So this morning we're going to talk about two budgets. To start off with is, as Dr. Law mentioned, the operating budget revised for discussion and possibly approval, and then also take the first look at the capital construction budget, which we'll bring back to you in June. When we talk about the general operating budget, some things that have happened in the legislature since the presentation that I brought you last month include that we received overall increased state funding of $1.8 million, which was pretty close to what we brought to you, with mostly a shift that occurred between community college program funding and more money moving into lottery funding. What did change was last month's budget had funding in there related to performance funding from the state. We had estimated about $3 million that we would receive. That was completely taken out of the budget, so we no longer have that in our budget either. And then we did also, again, receive the restricted project funding for the MLK Day of Service of $1 million. So in the revision, how we're looking to fund our strategic plan, as Dr. Law mentioned, there would be 0% enrollment growth for lower division, but we've applied a 3% enrollment growth for upper division, which gives us about $240,000. The learning access fee, which we would like to raise to $1 to fund our strategic priorities, would give us an additional $640,000. Then we have the addition of the state appropriation funds, again, just a shift, but a net of $1.8 million than what we had last year. We did find some additional funding resources related to reallocation of expense reductions. That came up to a total of $743,000. So that gives us $3.6 million to fund our plan this year. Part of the funding that we got from the state was to fund a retirement increase. So that's a flow. We take that revenue and that goes directly into our budget to fund the retirement increase for our employees. We still have maintained the strategic priorities and budget requests that we've previously brought to you. So that's $1.9 million overall, $1.5 million of which would be in our recurring budget. And then as Dr. Law mentioned, we're looking at holding back a reserve. $300,000 of a reserve associated with Midtown. As Midtown's completed and we start to open it, we know we're going to need new resources for that. We don't know exactly where, so we'd like to hold off $300,000 for that. And the remaining, just over $1 million, which accounts for about 1.5% of our tuition and fee revenues, we would hold off as we can watch enrollment growth so that we're being conservative. And that would give us a balanced budget. As a reminder from the prior months when we've talked about our strategic budget requests and what we would fund, we would continue to fund all the areas that we've discussed before. Expanded workforce offerings and improvements, employee professional development, a refocused marketing and information campaign, which Diana and Pat were just talking to you about, reducing the student loan default rates, and most importantly, and related to the dollar increase we're requesting, the college experience and out-of-class support and learning support to support our student success initiatives. That $1.2 million includes, again, the areas that we brought to you last month. So additional support staff in the career service areas, enhancements to our student coaching system and new student orientation, new positions in the student service area such as financial aid, veteran services, disability services, and also enhancements to the My Learning Plan system. We're looking at bringing on 7 additional tutoring resources to support the learning support centers, which include 2 virtual learning support advisors, new academic program resources, and Project for Accountable Justice support. What we've also maintained in this budget is discretionary technology funding for each campus. It totals $2.2 million, and this was something we started building 4 to 5 years ago now, and we are maintaining it. So what you can see by campus is minor equipment budget that they each get each year to spend, technology leases, which is how we're doing our computers and refreshes, and then the tech refresh line is actually funding that's out there that isn't currently allocated to a lease that's also available for new needs or new leases that might arise. So this is a look at what our revised 14-15 budget would look like. It includes all the items that we talked about and would give us a balanced budget. And if we want to switch over to the spreadsheet. And if you could, do you need to increase it just a little bit? The size?
So we have built a front end, and if you give us what if we do this, what if we do that, we can plug some numbers in and see the impact in real time. So we certainly are open to what happens if, what will occur if we change the enrollment projection, if we change the salary increase, if we do whatever it is. All the blue areas are subject to your input if you want to do that. We can change the reserve. We can change whatever it is we might like. So that's our budget. You know, we've done it with you over a period of months. It's a very good budget. Let me, you know, we are at the point of departure here, but back up, we get to switch back, but I want to go back. There's virtually every dollar goes to the front lines. I think the only central position was enhanced veterans services to work on the intake of their credentials and move it forward. That's the only thing I can think that is a central position. Everything else is at the front line, direct interaction with students. So even if you see a departmental secretary in some areas that didn't have one, guess who answers most of the students' questions day to day on campus? It's probably not the people with the fancy titles, it's probably the departmental secretaries or whatnot. So we want to make sure that the support for faculty and the support for students moves forward. If the enrollment matures, we have a way then to come back to you and talk about compensation, if you're open to that. Mr. Chairman,
I would
get me out of here.
I would love to hear from the comments from the board members first. I have some, but I'll wait. Ms. Westine, you're looking like I'm ready to go.
No, I'm very comfortable with this budget. I, in the past, have expressed my opinions. I'm quiet like that. It's hard to get it out of me sometimes. But I'm very comfortable with this budget. I'm not always thrilled with increasing fees on students, but with that said, I probably drive everyone crazy because I do swing by and I do go into the tutoring labs. What am I doing?
No, I'm trying to get the
Oh.
details up so you can see
Oh.
that.
Well, he's motioning to me
okay.
as well.
You need to speak in the mic, yeah.
It's very loud. Because it is because that fee is dedicated to those labs and to that tutoring and to the students specifically. If it were to a new, I don't know, whatever. If it were something other than that, I wouldn't be as happy. But because it's dedicated specifically to student learning, which is one of our biggest focuses, which obviously we're doing well at and we're succeeding at, I'm fine with this budget. My concern was raises. Based on not seeing an increase in enrollment, we don't have raises in there. I hope you bring it. I hope you surprise us. I hope 2 meetings from now we get hey, this is fantastic, and it looks like we're going to have a 10% increase, and we can consider it. I'm
Don't
a
get ahead
dreamer.
of
What can I
yourself.
say? Yeah, I'm a dreamer. But I'm fine
Thank
with
you.
it. That's my 2 cents or lack thereof.
Thank you very much.
Any other board members?
I don't have any additional comments.
Ms. Bello?
No, it looks like we're doing what we have to do to have a balanced budget, and that's what matters.
Captain Fine?
No additional. Heard us.
I would piggyback Ms. Westine. I'd love to see us be able to give raises to all staff across the board. With tuition down, we have a responsibility, though, to be fiscally responsible and also try to really look at whether or not this is a one-time trend or going forward. But this has been something that has typically, well, not typically, but this has been a trend where we've been down in terms of enrollment. And I would tell you that it's probably following a national trend where the economy is starting to come back some and folks are getting into entry-level jobs. And then the baccalaureate program is increasing because other folks are coming back to school to get retooled and retrained to move further up in the workforce. So that's a national trend, and we seem to be following that trend as well. So speak to the budget quite plainly, Dr. Law. I think we've been responsible here. I would not be prepared to vote to take off the table the increases for staff because I don't know what fall will look like. We don't know what fall will look like. I hope that the fall will show where we can give some increases to our staff. I think every board member would like to do that. I think the staff is top notch, and I don't want to bypass the fact that we need to, show them that they are top notch at some point.
Mr. Chairman, and I appreciate that. When the legislature was divvying the money based on high performance, guess which college showed up near the top?
St. Pete College.
We did.
Yeah.
If we were sitting here, if they had followed through and we were sitting here today, we would have another $2 or $3 million in our hand. I don't think any of us would have any reservations about letting that money flow to the people who did the work. So I want to keep that in front of us. There are people who did just what we wanted, and on the metric that the state was looking at, we came out on the top. They changed the way they were going to do it. They were going to give more money for just butts and chairs, quite frankly, and some people needed that money. So I appreciate your sticking with us on this. There are no easy answers here. We all want the people who are doing the work to feel the lift. You know, a 2% raise, which was in the budget that I had sent you earlier, is you know, not going to make anyone rich, but around the kitchen table for a lot of our staff, that'd be a nice discussion rather than going down. So stick with us. We're working that enrollment plan as hard as you can work it, and I suspect we'll turn it around, but I can't adopt a budget and spend money that's, I don't feel like coming back in October and cutting. I'd rather add. So that's where we are. Thank you for your support. I wanted to emphasize the part that I'm looking forward to is comes directly, the part I remember most from our workshop was your guidance to keep building the career part of the budget, of the plan, and you will watch that unfold. This budget funds additional work there, the facilities budget retrofits those centers, so we will do what you asked us to do, which is really a door-to-door level of service rather than just the front end piece of it. So watch that unfold, and this budget funds that growth and development in response.
One thing I would like to add, Dr. Law, is I remember, and when nobody was on this board, when I went up to Tallahassee, when you were coming here and they talked about the learning labs in Tallahassee, they named them after you actually, and how there were, I think, over 1 million visits to the learning lab. We're well on our way. For folks that don't know, the learning lab is a place where students can go and they can get help in all of their academic areas. And we have stressed that, we have pushed it, we have them on every campus, and they are turning out to be a very big success, as well as helping our students to be successful. To hear the number 250,000 students or visits and 100,000 in a semester, that is impressive, and we are on our way to doing what we said we're going to do in terms of making sure that every student has the resources that they need to be successful at any one of our campuses.
Thank you.
I do need I need to hear a motion and on accepting this 2014-2015 budget.
So moved.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded. Any comments? None, I'll signify by saying aye.
Aye.
None opposing. We've just passed our budget.
Thank you very much.
Thank
We're on to our financial presentation.
One of the things, Mr. Chairman, one of the things I did ask, though, is next month we have to spend some time on the facilities budget. I want to, because we have new members, I wanted to introduce it today, give you a sense of what happens in that facility, and then we'll spend time next month if we could just do that. Jamel, what do you?
I have it.
Got it. Go ahead.
Okay.
While she's pulling that up, I've got one question I
Sure.
would kind of like to tag on. Do we have access to the information from the other systems around the state on what their enrollment numbers are looking
yes.
like, and so do we track that and see that we're consistent and maybe look at where their gaps are compared to where our gaps are?
We'd be happy to, yeah, we do that
I'm just
a lot.
interested, are they seeing the same thing? Are they seeing declines or steady in the associate programs? The baccalaureates are growing? Is it consistent around the state?
It is consistently down across the state. There are a couple of pockets. If you go over to Seminole State College, over in, where the high growth is still occurring, those kinds of things. But if you talk to our friends at Broward, if you talk to our friends at Miami-Dade, if you talk to our friends at Valencia, everybody is essentially on the same marginally down trail. I'm trying to think if there are any other outliers. I don't know of any that are way
I was
up.
just curious.
I appreciate that. My frustration with that sometimes is we can use that as an excuse not to do better.
Well, I kind of look at it the other way.
remember
In
when
the
you-
corporate world, we
Yeah.
always look at benchmarking and looking as a way to improve not necessarily make an excuse, and really kind of look at our gaps compared to where others' gaps are, and see if somebody's already attacked this, and maybe we haven't. I just don't know.
Well, again, I'm all in. The student success presentation that we just showed you on how our students are doing in success, please be aware, we're a year ahead of the rest of the state on that. We got it up and running so that we could dissect it. Did it work? Did it not work? What can we learn? How can we do the training? It really kicks in for all of the colleges first time in August.
Okay.
So we're an iteration ahead. We've already done it. We've already identified some areas where we want to roll up our sleeves and move and keep going. So I'm remember when I was a kid and I'd tell my father, everybody's doing it, and I'm sure all of you got the same answer from your parents. That my father, I don't care about everybody else, I care about you, okay? And, I'm glad to give you the information. You should care about us, and we're working it as hard as you can. So we'll share that information, but you can see it's a trend. We're not the outlier. In fact, we're probably better than most in this, but it's down. Capital outlay, a little different, runs on a little different energies and a little different flavor. Jamel, I know we've got all the pieces, so you'll hear us refer to Fund 7. The capital outlay dollars are not in the operating budget. They're in a different fund, operating fund.
And so what we fund out of there relates to our construction, our remodel renovation, and major equipment. Currently, we have $40.5 million available in that budget. Primarily, the funding sources for that is either where the state has specifically given us money for a project, which they'll call PICO, such as the Bay Pines money that they've given to us. They could also allocate us remodel and renovation type money, of which right now we have $1.4 million for this year, but we're waiting to see whether there's going to be any cuts in that. And then we have capital improvement fees, which are part of the student standard tuition and fees, and that revenue comes in to fund the rest of this budget. In the current budget that we have as a draft, $2.3 million is related to construction bond payments that we bonded years ago and we pay annually. There's $25 million related to major construction projects, which we'll go over in a future slide. $5 million is allocated for deferred maintenance and infrastructure. $2.4 million is for campus remodel and miscellaneous expenses. And then $1.2 million is allocated, I have a slide for that, where again, just like we had technology campus discretionary dollars, we have campus discretionary dollars related to major equipment renovation and remodel. And then we have $1.1 million, which is personnel that we have for the college that work related to this construction area. So with all of those costs right now, that gives us a $3.5 million balance. $839,000 of that is recurring, so we do have money from prior years that we have left over that's more like one time that we can use for major projects to just to get those funded. This is a look at the campus discretionary budget. It's a total of $1.2 million, and you can see by campus the breakout between their major equipment budget and then the budget they have for renovation remodel. The three major construction projects that we have in the 14-15 budget include the Midtown Education Center, the Clearwater Library, and then Bay Pines. And the dollars to the right are just related to the funding that we have because we have already started work on all of those areas to some extent. You gonna go through this one?
No.
Okay. What we're looking at, we have to turn into the state a capital improvement plan, which includes a 5-year projection. For FY 15-16 right now, that includes renovation projects of $10.2 million, which you can see the details of, remodeling projects of $2.1 million, and then new construction projects of $11.5 million. And when we turn in this capital improvement plan, we also do rate, is it our top 5 resources that we'd like to have worked with.
Stop for a second. We handed out to you the sheet that you will have to vote on next month. We will update it, but I wanted you to see the level of detail. The real focus for you as a board is new construction projects, because we will be asking for planning money for a couple of new things that are coming over the horizon. So you saw our friends at USF St. Pete, they had planning money for a while for their business building, and then they finally got, I don't think they got 100% of the funding, but they got all they can spend in the next year, and they'll get the second part. We will come back to you and get your best guidance on what next for big projects. The Midtown project has sailed, the Bay Pines project has sailed, the library project has sailed. What next is the dialogue for this board as far as where we go, and I want to spend some time on that. So what you see is not exactly what, that's not our proposal, that's our working document right now. My goal today was to start your understanding of what takes place and how it's a little different from the other things we do. Repair and renovation, when you're the oldest college in the state, you know, our friends down at St. Pete Gibbs are sitting on a 70-year-old facility at their administration building. The slab is giving way. You know, it falls to us to get in front of that. So for today, let's be sure we understand. The state gives us money in 2 or 3 pots. We collect capital improvement fee from students. We get to determine a lot of it. It falls into several different categories, and we will follow up with you individually and then at the board meeting next month on what our 15-16 plan looks like, if that's okay, Mr. Chairman.
Just follow me.
And the part of that $3.5 million contingency, we also received budget requests related to major projects, major things that need to be done. And we'll be reviewing those over this next month. And when we come back to you, we'll also be showing you which of those that we think that we can fund from this to have those happen this year as well.
Any questions? No questions, board members. Thank you, Giselle. Thank you, Jim. Administrative matters down to human resources. Oh, I'm sorry,
Oh, we
Doug, you
got
got
a
our
finance
finance
report.
report. I'm sorry.
Real quick. 2 months to go in the fiscal year. You'll see at the very bottom, still a healthy 6.7, almost 6.8 million in reserve. I want to point something out at the top that I don't know if I focus much during the year on that, because I kind of wait till the end of the year to see where we are. Highlighted over on the left side when we submitted our budget to you, we had 2 pots of money there. We had one from our revenue stabilization reserve and one from one-time non-recurring funds. That 6.7 million surplus right now does not include expenditure of any of those funds. So right now, we're still sitting pretty good at not having to even dip into that money at all. So we'll see how we end the year. You also heard Jamel say that lottery, another $1.5 million is being shifted to lottery next year. So we'll again see next year more of our revenue coming later in the year. You can see under the lottery stream right now that we still have about $4 million to go just over the next 2 months in lottery, and that's historically that's very unusual to have that much revenue coming at the end of the year. All of our personnel costs, we with our new compensation plan that we administered earlier in the year, or 2 years ago now, we're starting to see the effect of hiring at within 10% of the minimum rate. So we're seeing a lot of recurring money as people retire and we have turnover. We're seeing some money being freed up there for reallocation as well, and we will continue to see that. Any questions?
Board members, any comments, questions? Thank you, Doug. Thank you, Doug.